Well, hello there. How are you today? I'm just Peachy Keen. I'm Joe Pasevich, and it is Control Room, and I do have a special co-host today, you might remember, Amy Troup,
Hi, everybody.
planning board member from the town of Halifax, out there in the hinterlands of Massachusetts.
Trying to keep it that way.
And Amy's got a lot to add to the show today regarding MBTA zoning. In case you have any idea what that's about, you're going to learn more about it. And it is not a dead issue. It is something we are continuing to address and fight. It's not over till it's over, baby. In the meantime, I want to bring you up to date real quick. I believe today, the 12th of March, was, I think, the last day to take out papers if you wanted nomination papers to run for anything in the town. And guess what? Right now, no one's taking out papers for anything except Select Board, where Trish Simpson, I think we have a picture of Trish Simpson, and Lynn Fiddler, the incumbent, will be going up against each other. Again, that election is May the 3rd, Saturday. The voting hours have been set at 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. There you go, Marshfield High School Gymnasium. This is going to be a monumental election. This is going to potentially change your town government for a long time, and a long overdue change. Okay? This is a big one, okay? Also, town meeting is April 28th. That's a Monday. And that's at the high school auditorium also. Well, that's in the auditorium. The election is in the gym. But right now, I haven't seen a warrant for that. I think the warrant for the annual town meeting has closed. I believe the special town meeting warrant has also closed. So if you didn't get something in, it's kind of too late right now. But check with Town Hall if you still want to try to put an article on the warrant. The advisory board is supposed to meet 30 days before the election. So they're supposed to meet before March, on or before March 28th to discuss the warrant. And that'll be an open public hearing for anybody to participate. In the near term, what's going on lately is that the board, also we've been talking about accessory units where you can build like a little cottage or convert a garage into a living unit in your yard. That's going to be on the warrant again to adopt regulations pertaining to accessory dwelling units, ADUs, if I've got that right. And the most recent development on that was that the Board of Health has adopted their own set of regulations that apply to ADUs. In other words, if you want to convert a building or create an ADU in your yard, there are a lot of requirements in terms of septic systems and square footage of the lot, etc. And from what I've seen so far, they've done a pretty good job because they require any new septic system construction to comply with the current standards for septic systems. And you cannot piggyback onto a septic tank of an existing house. I don't think you can do that at all. And if you could, that septic system would have to be upgraded to handle the capacity. It would have to be a new style tank and would have to handle the capacity of both buildings. And everything has to undergo Title V evaluation. In other words, whatever you do, whether you're, whatever construction you're doing, all the leaching capacity has to be according to Title V. So that's what the Board of Health did. The Select Board had a very interesting meeting, and this goes to the first main topic of our show tonight. And on the Select Board agenda this past Monday, a couple of things popped out immediately in front of me. One of them was that they had an executive session. 2 items on the executive session agenda. The second item, well, the first item is to discuss this negotiations with the Marshfield Firefighters local union on their contract. And the second item was to, quote, conduct strategy sessions and preparations for negotiations with non-union personnel, to wit, the town administrator. So Maresco was the topic, or the town administrator, which I assume means Mr. Maresco, was the topic of discussion at the Select Board meeting in executive session. What is that about?
Do you have any theories or hypotheses?
Well, we have 3 theories. Number 1, he wants a raise. He's already getting paid more than Mayor Wool. All right. Number 2, he wants to, like I use this for number 2. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Beep. Could you put a black over that? The second reason was we thought maybe he wants an extension to his contract. See, his contract expires in the fall of 2026.
Yes.
And by then, there will probably be a complete turnover on the Board of Selectmen. So while he has 2 votes in his favor right now, he could probably get anything. He could probably have, a cheese locker installed in his office now if he wanted to. He can get anything he wants now.
Right.
So I'm afraid he might ask for an extension on his contract, like for a year or 2, so that he won't get eliminated. But he's 63 years old, so he's like approaching the point of retirement anyway. So I'm guessing that this term that he's in, that expires a year from this fall in September 2026, I think this is his last term as a town administrator.
To me, I don't think that the Board of Selectmen right now should be discussing something that won't be within their
Right.
purview in September. So I find that to be a little bit unethical.
Potentially, that's right. And it's the same thing on the national level. It's like whenever the lesson of control, there's Mike Moresco there. That's a picture taken about 30 years ago. But it's like, whenever we talk on control room, we compare what's happening nationally, what's happening locally.
Yeah.
The lessons are the same, the strategies are the same, the politics are the same. So, yeah, he can get what he wants now. And so those are the 3 things. Is he looking for a little boost in his pay? Is he looking to alter the terms of his service time? Or is he just announcing his early retirement? So there's currently a poll on Facebook, and that's where we're trying to guess what it's about. And it's all hush-hush right now, but I think it's going to have to come out publicly very soon, okay? So we're going to watch that. Now, the second item that's a big deal, and I can't use up too much time, is a discussion on the election. Okay, there were 2 items 3 and 4 on the agenda item for the Board of Selectmen. And one was to discuss and vote on the voting hours for the local election for May 3rd. So the town clerk came in and said, I guess we could do 9 to 4. And the town clerk said, anything beyond 4 is like a colossal waste of time. That's what she said.
Oh, wow.
It's a colossal waste.
People do work on Saturdays.
And people have to go to work early on Saturdays, and they don't get out of work until after 4. And they have soccer games and everything else going on. It's a busy time for most people.
I think it should be 8 to 6, just like anything else, or at least.
What's the problem? I mean, but
They don't want to work.
I mean, when you consider the amount of money that you would spend for additional hours, I mean, is it really a colossal waste? Would you call it a colossal waste?
Well, I think that it would, I really honestly would bring it back to, are we working for we the people?
Right.
So to
we
me, the polls should be open long enough for people who go to work to go.
Right. Period. And if there's only 10 people that come in any given hour, well, that's 10 votes that count. And then the second item was, so they voted 9 to 4.
Okay.
All right. Everybody accepted that. And then the second item with the town clerk was a discussion and vote on the warrant for election of town officers. So the town clerk comes in and she holds up she says, here's a piece of paper for everybody. And what it is, it's a list of the races that are going to be on the ballot. Not the names of the people, because that isn't set yet. The people haven't even turned in their nomination papers yet. And there's, again, only one race right now where people have taken out nomination papers and intend to return them.
That's sad.
Which is really sad.
How well broadcast has it been? Because that's something that really needs to be looked at.
We talk about it all the time. The town hall website is a disaster.
Yes.
It's an absolute disaster.
Yes.
The town clerk is so far behind in the work, and I don't know what the problem is with that. But
Are they still counting mail-in votes?
They are in some places, not necessarily in Marshfield. And, when it gets that bad, when things break down this bad, you can't trust them. You couldn't trust them to direct you to the water fountain or anything. So anyway, so she comes in, she gives each select board member a piece of paper. She said, here's what the ballot is going to look like. These are the races that are up. What's missing? The Housing Authority.
Wow.
Full disclosure, I'm a board commissioner in the Housing Authority. And so at the time it comes to ask questions of the clerk, Eric Kelly does his due diligence, does his job, and he says, why isn't there a seat for the Housing Authority on the ballot? And Ms. Casper says, because there isn't one this year. We have a tape of the first opening minutes of that encounter.
Any questions or comments?
Yes. Nerys, I've been hearing from some people, there are concerns as well as I have in regards to the housing authority position. Why is that not listed?
Because there's no opening on the housing authority.
How's that?
We had an election last year, and there were 2 people elected into the housing authority.
Wasn't there a term up from when Kevin Campbell resigned and someone
Yes.
filled the position? Is that up this year?
No,
No.
no,
Why is it not?
because it wasn't up.
It's a 5-year term, right?
Yes, there was a reorganization of the board, including the, what's the name of the person? There was a reorganization of the board on the state level, including what is the name of the person? Including the tenant. They reorganized all of the boards on the state level, including creating a tenant position. And they're all supposed to be staggered so that they go in alternate years. So because they created a new position of a new person, I now actually have to make the people that ran last year for 5 years, I have to actually stagger them. So according to town council, I can toss a coin, or I can discuss with the 2 people that ran last year how they would like to stagger their terms. They can either one of them can choose one of the terms. But those positions are filled.
All right, I would
We
like,
have a full board.
Mike,
Yes, sir.
I would like to have that paperwork from the state in regards to that. Mr. Galvin can forward that to me and the rest
That's
of the other
not
board
from the
members.
state.
Who's it from? I think you
Not
just said it from the state for the
We
reorg.
had an election.
You just said the state
It says
reorged.
it's Mass General Law.
You just said the state
It's
reorged.
Mass General
You
Law.
just said the state reorged.
Yes, it's Mass General Law. So
Was
it's
it Mass General
not,
Law or did the state reorg?
it's Mass General Law that reorganized the state. So it's the Mass General Law. You can actually just call up the Mass General Law.
Mass General Law what?
Mass General Law reorganized the boards.
What's the number?
It's the
Chapter and the
legislature.
section of it.
Yes.
Chapter and
it's the-
section?
140, is it 141? I think it's 141.
Mike,
I'll
you have,
get it for
you
you.
have
I'll get it for you.
town
What?
council send that to us, please.
Well, let's see if we can take a 5-minute recess and have this resolved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and duly seconded. Roll call
I
is in
can-
order. Ms. Fidler?
Aye.
Mr. Darcy?
What would you like to
I
say?
can run down and get it, and you guys can continue with your meeting, and I can come back. You want to do that?
That works.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
Let me have this. So she's totally wrong. Okay, first of all, why is she in front of the select board now offering a warrant? Well, some people might ask, is she probably trying to solidify the makeup of the races on the warrant on the ballot now? Why? Why does she want to get it solidified, set in concrete now? What's the hurry? If you look at Chapter 39, Section 10, first of all, putting together the election warrant is the responsibility of the select board, not the town clerk. So Eric Kelly was the only member of the select board doing his duty, exercising due diligence to make sure the warrant is accurate and legal. Whereas Lynn Fiddler is like, oh yeah, whatever you say, Nerys, whatever. The lady Fiddler is incapable of sort of like being analytical or discerning. Like I've always said, a fish out of water. Okay. So the second thing is that when Nerys Casper talks about reorganization, well, look at this. A housing authority has 5 members, all right, in a town like Marshfield. Each member serves 5 years. When you first set up a housing authority, you take a vote at town meeting to put people on it. And the person that gets the most votes gets to stay on for the full 5 years. The next person gets appointed, but they only can stay on for 4 years. Then they run for re-election for a 5-year term. Another person gets put on for, say, 2 years. Well, they get to serve for 2 years, but when that 2 years is up, they have to run for re-election, and then if they succeed, they'll be on for 5 years. Now, the governor also can appoint somebody to a housing authority. That person is appointed for 5 years at a time. The only exception is that if the governor doesn't get around to reappointing that person after 5 years, they may stay on board. So it's like a default reauthorization.
So that's the tenant.
No, that's the
Okay.
governor-appointed person. Now,
Okay.
there was a fourth position that was elected, and the state decided to make that fourth elected position somebody that lives within the housing authority's property. So they call that the tenant representative.
Oh, okay. Got
But
ya,
that
got ya.
tenant representative, guess what? Only serves like everybody else for 5 years. But when they did the so-called reorganization that the town clerk is like trying to blow smoke about, all right, here it is right here. This is the actual reorganization document. I have it. It's dated 2021, February 11, 2021, updated March the 7th, 2023. And what it says is that from now on, the next time one of the elected positions expires, you will fill it with somebody who's a tenant. And the way to fill it with someone who's a tenant is to ask the people who live in the housing authority properties, give us the names of some people that you think would be good on the board. And then those names go to the selectmen, and the selectmen say, we choose,
They interview them.
Javi Milkcracker. Right, and they interview them, and then that person gets appointed, and at that point, they're on for 5 years. But it doesn't change the structure. It still remains that one person comes up for a reappointment or election each year for 5-year terms. So here's the town clerk trying to say, well, the reason why I'm calling it this way is because the state reorganized everything. Well, here it is right here.
When you were going through this, does this support your argument that you
course
shared
it
with the
does.
board? Okay,
Lynn.
that's pretty much what I'm getting at.
So if you go to page, okay, if you actually just go to page 2, it says notwithstanding the chapter, blah, 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 blah. It says 3 members of the authority shall be appointed immediately by the Board of Selectmen to serve only until the qualification of their successors. It says not more than 5 names, just keep.
Hold on,
skip-
Nerys.
Yep. That's
Can
wrong,
you-
honey.
I'm trying to find where you're at here.
On page 2,
All right, I got 2, yep.
just go to just do numbers, it's easier that way.
So let me say
Okay,
not-
3 members shall be elected by the town, provided that the members originally elected at annual town meeting, the candidate who receives the highest numbers of votes shall serve for 5 years. Candidate who receives the next highest numbers of votes shall serve for 4 years, blah. All right, so basically what it's saying is that each person serves an alternate number of years. So 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay, so the thing is that, so we needed to follow that pattern. But what screwed us up is that Mrs. Bennett, you have a list, should have a notation in here, Mrs. Bennett screwed us up because Mrs. Bennett is the application for the tenant, the housing authority tenant representative, which is the reorg by the state. The state decided that one of those people who is representing the housing authority had to be somebody who actually lived in the housing, which makes a lot of sense. So they assigned somebody to that, but it screws up our order. Also included in this little pile that I gave you is a notice that you will note is Carrie Richardson's appointment by the governor to this board. You'll notice that that actually expired in 2018. The governor's council is the one that actually gives the appointments to that board. They've not appointed anyone since 2018. So every single housing authority board who has a member that's been appointed by the governor's council has allowed that member to ride if that member has been willing to ride. And the governor's council has not appointed anyone else to any housing authority. Mr. Richardson has been willing to stay on the board all of this time. So he's continuing to serve on the board of the Housing Authority. So his seat is not a consecutive seat. So my job, should I choose to accept it, is to make sure that everybody is staggered. And if you look at now, yet another way that I could choose to do this is I can go by votes. And if you look at the election results that I gave you from the town election, you will note that Mr. Daly got 2,605 votes and Ms. Delgadillo got 2,601 votes. So I can actually give more years to Mr. Daly and less years to Ms. Delgadillo. But I would prefer to just have them sit down and duke it out themselves. I think arm wrestling would be good. So, in any event, I think that, I don't like making decisions like that. I don't think that I think that, they're the adults in the room and I'm me, and they should decide what's best for the housing authority and themselves.
Okay, so
And,
moving forward,
Ms. Chairman.
no, sir,
May I
no,
please speak?
no,
I'm
sir.
from the Housing
No.
Authority, and this is all wrong, completely wrong.
I talked to town council about it, I talked to the
And the town
elections division
council-
about it, and the elections division agrees with town council that this is the way to move forward.
That is not true.
That is true.
I have all the documents, and you are absolutely wrong.
Okay.
This is just being made up.
Joe, you have a right to be here, but you don't have a right to disrupt a public
Well,
meeting.
I think the
So-
chairperson should recognize me because I'm an authority on this very matter.
You think you are, but you're not, Joe. And if you're gonna keep disrupting the meeting, you can leave. You don't have a right to disrupt a public meeting.
Are
You can be
running the
here.
meeting?
Joe, you do
Are you
not,
running the meeting?
Joe, I am running the meeting.
Right, and I'm asking.
So
you to
I
recognize.
am not giving you the recognition to speak.
So I tried to be nice about it. I mean, you would think that if somebody can give you information to add to the conversation to help resolve it, you would recognize that person. That's just courtesy to a fellow elected official. And look at Darcy, how eager he is to jump in and be the chair. Steve Darcy is up for election for consideration to be the chair of the Marshfield Select Board after the coming spring election. So after May 3rd, if Steve Darcy is still on the select board, okay, there will be an election to see who's the chair.
Reorganization.
Do you think you could trust a person like that, an impulsive, irrational person like that, to be the chair of the most important board in town? No.
I have a lot to say about this. Number one, I don't like it when they say there's a public meeting, but yet they don't call on people to talk. If somebody is raising their hand and has something to say,
And some boards and committees do have that policy where they're more receptive.
well, I think it's across the board. I don't
Right.
really think that just because it's the select board, because to me, when I look at this, and I don't know all the players in Marshfield, I'm learning, right?
Right.
They should have let you speak. Just because you're a person in the public and you have something to add.
Right.
So to me, they don't want you to tell the truth or tell your side even.
Right. And which belies the fact that there's probably an agenda behind all this.
Of course.
Now, for example, the town clerk says, I talked to town council and I talked to the elections division and they agree with her determination. Well, guess what? I talked to the attorney from the elections division. And the
Yeah.
attorney from the elections division at the Secretary of State's office told me the story. And it ain't matching up, baby. And as far as town council goes, town council does not determine what happens with the housing authority. He's told me to my face, I am not your counsel. So he's got nothing to say. If the town clerk gets sued, well, then he can, whoops, we lost the picture. There he is, there's the town council. If the town clerk gets sued, he's gonna have to defend the town clerk. So, and as far as the law goes, again, it was originally set up that there were 4 elected members and 1 state-appointed person. Here it is here, Chapter 121B, Section 5. And it says right there where I highlighted it, as each term expires, each successor shall be appointed or elected in the same manner and by the same body for a term of 5 years from such expiration. So when your term expires, that seat is open for re-election.
That's
And
correct.
guess what? 2025, there has to be an election, because the last time someone was elected to that seat was in 2020. Kevin Cantwell resigned. He was replaced by an appointment with a man named John Daly, and Mr. Daly is supposed to be running this year if he wants to stay on the board. What happened? Mr. Daly was put on the ballot last year, and on the ballot it said for a term of 5 years. Personally, I missed it, but guess what? The Secretary of State Elections Division recognizes that that was improper. So the way to rectify that is, and so does the clerk, as far as I can tell. So the clerk, to resolve the issue, would put that position on the ballot this year, and the question for that seat would be completely resolved, but she jumps ahead to get approval for the warrant, so she doesn't have to do that in effect, and now is talking about putting it on the ballot next year. Why? Why? Guess what? I may be a little bit conspiracy theory and paranoid, but do you think they want an ally of Joe P. on the Housing Authority at this time? No. So whatever they can do, if they wanted to make sure I wouldn't get somebody elected to help me out, because it has been tough, all right, then this is what they would do.
So let me get this straight.
Not making any accusations, I'm just
There hasn't been anybody elected to the Housing Authority since 2020.
2023, when I was elected.
Okay.
And then 2024 was when a woman named Cecilia was elected. No, I'm sorry, not Cecilia. Cecilia was elected in 2023, the same year I was elected, but she was filling out a term.
Okay, so somebody resigned.
Right. So now what happened was somebody resigned. Somebody was elected in 2020. They resigned in 2023. They were appointed to fill out the term. But then for some reason, they put that guy on the ballot last year and listed his term. And he was not supposed to run until this year, but they put him on the ballot last year.
For 5 years?
For 5 years, which was a
That's a mistake.
To say it nice would be an error.
So to break it down
The
for
same
people.
woman who on the zoning board as a secretary committed what she called the Scribner's error when she made the wrong zoning designation for the airport expansion project.
Okay, so in 2020, somebody that resigned in 2023 was elected.
Right,
Okay. So then somebody was appointed for 2 years.
right.
Okay. That would mean that they would be up this year.
Right.
So that makes sense to me that in 2024, they shouldn't have had an election.
There should have been an election, and I don't remember who ran. I think it might have been Delgadillo, the other member of the board, and she is, if 2024 was the correct year, and right now I think it was, she is legitimate, and she's on from 2024 to 2029.
29.
So that seat's taken care of.
So this is where the double comes in, that somebody who had a 2-year appointment was given an election in 2024.
Right.
And it should have been this year, and it has been determined by the state that that was an incorrect.
Well, I can't say it's been determined, but from my conversations, they understand that's what happened.
Okay. So then that could just be a nullified race.
It's illegal, so it has to be done over.
Correct.
It has to be done over, and at the very minimum, it has to be put on the ballot next year, at the very minimum. But the way to have solved that
Would have been
problem
this year.
would have been to put it on the ballot this
He
year.
could run this year.
Yeah, this year, and it would be all taken care of. But the clerk refuses to do that, and she's had notice to address it. And I've got a hearing coming up on April the 1st at the Housing Authority at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, April the 1st. And we're going to talk about the plans for the Housing Authority for next year, for fiscal year 26. And if you read that document, at the beginning of the document, it gives you an overview of the Housing Authority. And it lists who the board members are and
And
the
the
terms
year.
of their, and the years of their terms. I'm listed correctly, 2023 to 2028.
Okay.
This guy Daley is listed as from November 1st of 23 when he was appointed to May 1st of 24, which is incorrect. But at the same time, you can make an argument that that person, once they're appointed, should run immediately at the next election
That's usually
to
how we do.
complete the terms, the terms of
And
that
keep
seat.
the sequential.
So he would have to run in 24 and then again this year. so that you have one person, so like you just said, the sequence remains the same, one
Yes.
person every year over the 5-year term. And the state appointee, Mr. Richardson, is listed as, his term is from June 1st of 2013 to April 1st of 2018. So he's been on the board for over 6 years and hasn't been reappointed by the governor, which makes you wonder, is the state and the governor's office more interested in pushing MBTA zoning instead of taking care of one of the foundational important providers of housing for people that need it? They should be focusing on doing that core basic task.
For
Yeah.
legal residents.
Yeah, exactly.
Not illegal
Right,
ones.
right. So there it is. So all the
Wow.
so the town clerk is exposed for not doing her job or misinterpreting it at the very least.
Or
And-
somebody's guiding her to misinterpret it.
Right, and like I said, could it be they don't want somebody else to possibly get on the housing authority? Could it be? I'm not saying that it is, but geez, it would certainly work out in their favor if that was the case, all right, if it went that way. So in the meantime, by the way, this chair, Lynn Fiddler, she's not capable. I bet she couldn't do a third grade crossword puzzle, all right? I mean, she just can't. She can't like open her mind and take in the facts and make a judgment. And I don't understand why this person is in that position of authority. I mean I know how it happened, but it shouldn't be. And what happened recently, as we were fighting MBTA zoning, we got the letter from the state saying you're out of compliance. You know, it was a February letter.
Yep.
And they said you have until Valentine's Day
Day.
or something like that to give us a letter promising to bring it back for a vote. I don't know what you can tell what Halifax is doing in a minute. And so our select board, feeling the sentiment of the voters,
Thank God.
said, okay, we're not going to do it. Well, it's an election year also, so Lynn Fiddler is going to do what she has to do to get elected. And of course, her sidekick, Steve Darcy, that you saw there acting up, bad boy, acting up again. Go to your corner, Steve. All right, dog boy. Just stop it. Behave yourself and sit down, all right? I know you want to play chair, but you're not the chair, Mr. Darcy. So what happens is they say, okay, we're not going to submit the letter to promise to comply. But does that mean that they're going to not give up on it? Well, my prediction is that if she were to be elected, that MBTA zoning would be on the warrant for a special town meeting
Right.
in June, okay? So what she does is also, following that, the issue of it being an unfunded mandate comes out, right? And so that word spreads throughout the state like wildfire, thanks to Rentham, Methuen, and Middleborough, right? Not Marshfield or any other town. So the unfunded mandate is declared. So you don't have to build MBTA zoning because it costs money to do that, and that's an unfunded mandate because there's no money provided to do it.
Correct.
So what happens? So the town, feeling again, the voters breathing down their necks, files a complaint in court to apply for an exemption. So if a law is declared an unfunded mandate, any town can say, now that it's an unfunded mandate, we want to be on the list of towns that are exempt from having to build MBTA zoning. So they did the right things. There it is there. There's the press release from Town Hall saying, on behalf of the town and the select board, the town filed the lawsuit. And we talked about this on my last show. I've read through it. We discussed it with Eric Kelly on our last show. And Eric was actually against filing this because he wanted the resources and the focus to going to challenging the constitutionality of the law. And I said, well, it's unresolved. We do not know if filing for the exemption is simply a stopgap measure, because if somehow from all the tax money they're going to collect on Snickers bars now, okay, because the governor wants a tax on candy now, right? And if she has any other money sources, if she applies that to select towns to say, here's your money to help build an MBTA zone, then we might have to say, okay, yeah, well, we admitted that we wouldn't build it unless you gave us money. And now that you've given us money, what argument do we have?
Where are they going to get that money, though, is the problem.
Exactly. And nobody knows what these developments cost, right? And
Right.
what the impacts are to local services. And I filed a zoning article at town meeting several years ago saying any large project over a certain size must go through financial impact stage. And it required a 2/3 vote, and I lost by 1 vote.
Did you call for a recount?
At that time, no. It was a hand count.
Oh, okay.
It was a standing count, so I had let it go. But anyway, so that's where Eric is coming from, and I understand it. And there's actually a provision in here. I talked about it. It's paragraph 43 of count 2, in case you guys have a copy of this. So anyway, so they file this, and then again, it's an election year. And Lynn Fidler, chairman of the Board of Selectmen, who was a proponent in favor of the MBTA zoning, oh yeah, it's a smart thing to do. And there were people on Facebook and on social media saying how stupid everybody was. We were the troglodyte knuckle draggers that would vote against the smart way to deal with MBTA zoning. We were right all along to turn it down. So they're criticizing the people for voting it down. And Lynn Fidler was on that team that wanted this passed. So what is she doing now? She's on a public relations tour, and she recently appeared on WHED radio with none other than her associate and friend Bob Galvin, town council, to talk about the issue. And we have an audio clip, I believe.
Oh.
Absolutely. Going to get you both to come back in a few months.
Yeah.
And we can do an update and talk
Can I
about
just
what's
add
happening.
one?
Of course.
Percent multifamily housing, 21.1% here in Marshfield. That's a big number. Multifamily housing is exactly what the state's looking for. And that's a percent of total housing. So there it is.
It almost seems like, when you might be arguing with somebody,
Yeah.
and again, just my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Don't give me the facts. I've already made up my mind.
Yeah. Well, the facts represent not opinion. They represent the facts.
Absolutely. But
Put that picture back up again quickly. Can I see that picture again? Does that look like a couple like about to board the QE2 or something like that? I mean, it looks like, we're off on a trip and here's, anyway. But anyway, so here's the point. All the things she just mentioned right there about the 21% and about the cost and not to mention the cost to the community, it was raised by the people. Regular people off the street came to the meeting and said, wait a minute, we already have lots of apartments. The budget's under stress. We're looking at an override, blah, blah, blah. No, this is the smart thing to do, they kept saying. And that's all I have to say on the matter. Thank you. And I'm still trying to figure out what's going to happen to the elections.
Well, to me,
Take it over, Amy.
I think
I'm
that
out of breath.
there should be more broadcast to the people about what is up for re-election. We need to be more diligent about telling we, the people, about what is going on in our towns. What boards have vacancies? And let me answer that for you. Every board is alternating so that somebody is being elected to it on a yearly basis. You don't want to have a new board every year that nobody understands how to run the meeting or anything, so it's offsetting on purpose.
Right.
So to me, I think that that is paramount, that we need to start paying attention to our local elections. Everybody is all on board with the federal elections, and I get it. You're watching the news about everything federal, but here's the thing. Here's the point you say earlier. We outnumber these people here. So how many people do you have in Marshfield?
Oh, about 26,000,
Okay.
under 20,000
And
voters.
how many elected and appointed officials in the town, probably?
Oh, I don't know,
Roughly.
about 25.
Okay. So
30,
there you
something.
go. Once a year, you go and you say, I don't want the SAFE Act because that's the CDC that now tells my elected Board of Health what to do. Sorry for the pun, but it's trumped. Your stretch code. Stop allowing that. Do you really want to have all electric houses? If a tree falls on your house and you have over a 30% renovation, do you really want to get rid of your gas stove, your gas heating, and your oil heating and putting heat pumps? Well, stop complaining and go to town meeting once a year. And this has been happening because of MBTA housing, but it can't stop here. This is how they have been taking over, is nobody goes to town meeting. We can do whatever we want. Stop. So every year, there's a planning board seat up. Every year, There's a zoning board. Are you appointed zoning board of appeals here?
Yes.
Okay. Every year there's a selectman up. Every year there's supposed to be a housing authority person up. So there's a constable, there's all these different places. Go to your website, figure it out. And remember, when they tell you that you can't say something, go back to the freedom of speech, okay? Go back to freedom of speech. You have it until it's tyrannically taken away. So the reason that it's so important for elected people to be in these seats is because that remains us in control. So a lot of towns are going into the charters right now and being like, oh, let's redo the charters so that we can appoint the tax collector, we can appoint the town clerk, we can appoint the highway supervisor. And they're like,
And they did it here. They tried to make the DPW appointed. It came to a big charter change battle.
yeah,
And at the same time, they wanted to make our town administrator a town manager, which is much more powerful.
Yeah.
We took it to a big, big meeting. Auditorium is full of everybody. And I'll never forget it. There was a guy named Mr. Buckner from South River Street came up to the microphone. He offered an amendment to remove the change from town administrator to town manager. And when they saw that the people were like going to vote for it, they took their ball and went home.
Oh.
So all the charter changes that could have been potentially good and productive and helpful for the town, if they weren't going to get their town manager, then they wanted nothing to do with anything.
I don't like the
was
town
terrible.
manager idea. I don't like
I
the
don't
town
either.
planner idea. I think that unless they were actually chartered to be, you have to live in the town that you're a town manager in, you have no skin in the game that way. So why are we paying somebody $160,000 to bring Mara Haley's laws down? Because that's what's happening. They direct it through the OCPC, which is like, and other bureaucracies like it, but Old Colony Planning Committee. Non-voting, just all information, pat each other on the back, ha,
Bureaucrats.
ha, ha.
Bureaucrats.
Yeah.
Bureaucrats.
Nothing to do with anything, but then they move all of these changes into the town hall.
And we've had luck here. We've actually gotten people to start paying attention. And there's a general mood that's creating more people to start showing up. But unfortunately, no one's stepping up to run for these boards and committees. And my theory, I don't know if you agree with me, I don't know how, you got to tell us what it's like. When's your election? May?
Our election is on May 18th and our town meeting is on May 12th.
So you got a full slate, like select board, planning board up for election this year?
That's correct.
Any interest?
Yes, we have one person who is pulled for selectman.
Yeah.
Apparently, our selectman that is up this year isn't rerunning, but I'm not sure if it's rumor yet because you know how that is. Like I was at recycling
Sure.
today and one of the selectmen
Right.
was like, oh, who do you have running for planning board? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Of course I know,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's true here because the establishment is always like putting out feelers.
Yeah.
And what do you hear? What do you hear? Who's going to run? Because they're trying to like strategize.
Exactly.
Because they can't risk losing control.
Yes.
You know, it's amazing. Again, the lesson of control room is compare your local politics to national politics, and it's a game of control and money.
Yes, and meanwhile, we the people who own property in our towns need to be more diligent to protect our children and actually to protect ourselves because I don't know about you, but all of these bills coming in, the taxes going up every year, it's difficult and more difficult for people. Some of us might be blessed to have enough money, but you have to think about all the elderly, all the first-time home buyers. And what is one of the biggest things that is going on in the state right now? We need affordable housing. Well, let me tell you, it is absolutely stunningly impossible to do Proposition 2.5s and raise taxes in record numbers and create affordable housing. It is literally impossible.
Well, they're talking about overrides everywhere now. Any override talk in Halifax?
Yes, they want to go for, I think, 1.1 million and something.
Oh, we had a guy on from Hanover last week. He's running for select board there. And yeah, they're looking for well, Duxbury, Hanover.
Yep.
I think so far Situate, the latest news is Situate has found a way to avoid the override this year.
Good.
But I think
Duxbury's voting this weekend.
Duxbury voting this weekend, and I don't know what the impact is. I heard
It'll be $5,000 for a their average assessment in
Yeah.
Duxbury is 1.3 million.
Okay.
and the average tax bill will go up $5,000
Well, in Norwell, they
for
said
just that over
Yeah.
the next 5 years.
and in Norwell, they're looking at an override, and they're projecting the average, for a $1 million house, the average increased pay tax is going to be about $900. But still, you can be house rich. You can have a really nice big house, but guess what? It's like you don't have a lot of cash to throw around.
That's right.
And $900 can really buy you some important stuff.
Yeah, like food.
Yeah, like food or medicine.
But here's the thing: everybody thinks that, oh, well, they own a $1.3 million
Right.
house. But what if they bought it in 1975?
And if there's a
and
mortgage
they're
on it?
elderly, and now because we're selling properties at record numbers because the interest rates were too low. They are not supposed to be between 2 and 5%. I know it sounds great, but it only made the house prices go like this. You can't afford a $700,000 house unless you have the 2%. So now when the taxes go up to meet this and then all the neighbors go, we're tipping the waiter and it's blind. So you got to wake up, because just because somebody owns a really beautiful property doesn't mean A, they want to sell it, B, they have a mortgage, C, they can afford any more money. And I'm sorry, but is this Russia? Are we in a communist country? I'm sorry, are we supposed to take from the rich and
Well,
give?
now you're talking more like France and Germany, I think, or where there's more of a socialistic system. Russia is kind of like in like a free-for-all condition right now.
I stand corrected.
No,
but
and
the point being,
and in Russia, and again, I've been there many times, and I was in those areas not too long ago. One thing you have to remember is they get free health care, mostly free or heavily subsidized rent. Okay?
it's not free.
Huh?
It's not free.
No, I mean, well, free in terms of like what bill you'd get in the mail every. I mean, it's not free in terms of the system.
Yeah, you just get a larger tax
No,
bill.
but if you have a health problem, you just walk into a clinic and it's like they sign you in, and whatever has to happen.
In
they
Russia,
take
you
care
mean?
of. Yeah.
Oh, but then again, if you talk to Tatiana about how hard it is to get a dental appointment, right?
Well, that's changed now.
Okay.
I can vouch for that because
Okay,
I've
good.
actually used dental services and stuff like that overseas.
Oh, wow.
And like I was saying on the show, I think it was last week, I know I have an acquaintance that is living in Vietnam right now.
Oh.
And I wanted to ask her, I neglected to ask her. I said, I just got an estimate for some medical procedure and for some dental work. And I said, it's cheaper for me to fly to Vietnam to have my dental work done and enjoy the scenery and go on a cruise and have rum drinks at a bar and then come back than it would be to go directly to the dentist. Anyway, it's just a little amusing story.
Right.
Can I interject something?
Sure.
We had something from Grok. You guys know what Grok is?
No, I
Grok
don't.
is like an AI application.
Oh, okay.
And what is Grok? Can someone explain to me what Grok is? And because they were consulted recently on some of these issues. And what did Grok have to say? We did a little inquiry with this AI application, and here it is right here. The question was posed to Grok. And by the way, I was at a meeting recently, and somebody was saying, how are we going to find somebody to run against Maura Healey? And I said, why don't we just go on ChatGPT, which is an artificial intelligence application, and say, how do we defeat Maura Healey in the next state election? And let the AI tell us how to do it. And it would probably come out and say, well, get a woman who's 5'9", who has a master's degree and has 2 children and has a certain color hair and eyes and eyes. And I said, why don't we just do that? And then we'll just go look for that person.
Well, isn't that racist?
No. This is AI. You can't call AI racist, right?
Really?
Right?
Who programmed it?
Well, it depends on who programmed. So we asked Grok the question, can you tell me what the length of term is for an elected member of a housing authority in Massachusetts? So this relates back to what we were just talking about on housing authorities. And artificial intelligence could tell you everything that I just told you, which goes against what the town clerk was telling us, and which goes against what the chair of the board Lynn Fiddler and her puppy on the side was trying to force down your throat and has forced down your throat. Right there, it tells you in a town, for a housing authority, 3 members are elected by the town, 1 member is appointed by the state. And at the bottom it says, the terms are 5 years.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just wanted to bring up the subject of AI because it goes to the things we're talking about. And it goes to the idea of elections, which is we can't find, people aren't stepping up.
Yeah.
And I think some of them may be just discouraged because they see how dirty it can be. Maybe
That's
that's one
true.
thing. And it's like, oh, do I need that kind of aggravation? And I really implore people to sign up with the select board to be appointed to something, anything. I don't care if you're left, right, liberal. I don't care what your gender or your sexual identity is or where you come from. Just sign up for something. Cultural Council, Conservation Commission, Zoning Board,
I do have one thing.
anything. But try it out, see what you think, if you can put in the time commitment, and then from there, run for an office. There's an opening on the DPW. The guy running for the DPW Commission, running for re-election, is running for like his 7th term. He's already retired once. A guy on the Board of Health has already retired, and now he's back. We have
Who's that?
we have an Armstrong.
Okay.
And then we have a guy who's the moderator, who I call the town's utility man. It's like on a baseball team.
Yeah.
You get, hey, you know, Joe can play third base and he can throw a pretty good fastball.
Yeah.
So in other words, and we put him in right field and stuff like that. Did you play softball or
I
baseball?
did.
Oh, I played baseball in the town leagues and stuff like that. I was a left fielder.
Third base.
Yeah, and I pitched also. But anyway, so he's a utility man. You know, they put him in where he wants. He's already left. Oh, I'm retired. I'm not coming back. Next thing you know, he's like running for town moderator because guess what? Someone like Joe might get in. So you better pull somebody back into all these different races. So please try it out.
I'll tell you this. From knowing Joe, you want Joe there because he's looking out for the town's best interest and not any special, like, people who are trying to make money off the town or have their way. You're supposed to listen to the people. So to me, if I see anybody who's making it so that you can't talk, I wouldn't vote for those people. And the most important thing that you should do is figure out how they vote and what they vote for. And don't pay attention to Citizens of the Month that we did in elementary school and vote for your best friend, because they might be fun to play kickball with, or they might be fun to go have a beer with. But if they're not going to vote in the way that's going to make it so that your town is financially fit and for all and not just some, and that the laws aren't changing, like appointed is bad. We already got rid of tyranny in the Revolutionary War. We don't need to have tyranny again. That will be terrifying. We definitely don't want to go communist or socialist. So that's that. You want to keep an eye on the ball so that A, your property is not getting encroached upon, that you have enough water coming out of your faucet, and that the traffic isn't making it so that you need to travel a half hour longer every year to go to work, and so on and so forth. How many kids are in your schools, that kind of thing, because a lot of people are going to have problems if you give a Proposition 2.5 to the people. And
Well, you want transparency and you want someone who's responsive.
yeah, I
You
would
know-
vote for Joe.
No, I'm not running for anything right now. But when you look at the agenda and you see some of the stuff that they just like flip through without any, and they very rarely give you any detail on these things, which is a problem with almost every town board agenda. They give you very little detail. So if you're at home and you're going, oh, what's this? They're going to discuss and sign a letter to the legislature. Oh, okay. Regarding remote meeting, I don't know what that's about. I mean, I don't know. So you want somebody on the board, like right now we have Eric Kelly, who he's got the pulse on the regular guy.
Ask questions.
And he knows that decisions have consequences. They're going to vote on something that's going to end up costing you more money. Like we just had an item put on the agenda saying that if you wanted to use one of the town properties to do a photo session, you had to pay the town $1,000 and you had to carry an insurance policy of $1 million. Well, the outrage from the town was explosive over just a couple of days prior to the meeting. And they got so much blowback, and they had so many people show up to the meeting on Monday to say, what the hell are you doing? That they pulled it off the agenda. But see, they wouldn't have done it if it weren't for the people standing up.
Yep.
Anyway.
Watching the selectmen meetings from Marshfield that you just had on here tonight, I was actually very proud of Eric Rohn, right?
Right.
He literally asked questions, and you can hear the opposition to him. I mean, she didn't even have the documents with her that she
Oh.
needed at the meeting. She needed to go downstairs.
Right.
And I'm not knocking you, Miss Town Clerk, but you should have them there.
Oh.
And so, and when somebody's asking you a question, if you don't know, just say, give me a second and answer. Because he has every right as an elected person of all the people in Marshfield to ask those questions so that he can represent them.
Right,
And I
right.
believe that town clerk's elected too, so you should be working in the best interest of the people and not your friends in the town hall. I was appalled at anyone stating to anybody, I don't care who it is, I'm not being biased because it's my friend here, but you should
She
let
admits it. She admits
every single person who raises their hand and asks a question the ability to ask the question. Because number one, more people will understand. Number two, it's their right. And number three, and most importantly, you work for them.
Right. And that's what we're faced with right now. And actually, there were a lot of clips. There were a lot of moments from that meeting that we didn't have time to play tonight when the chair, Fiddler, really berates Mr. Kelly. She really puts pressure on him, like, get to the point, get to the point, get to the point. You know, that kind of treatment.
That's not okay.
Unacceptable, unacceptable.
That's not okay.
Very bad. We've got 1 minute, 2 minutes. Is there anything, you gotta tell me in 2 minutes, what's happening in Halifax? Are they gonna push for MBTA zoning again?
No.
Okay.
But just in case, we have 5 different things so articles for town meeting, the deadline was yesterday at 4:30. And of course, we all work a lot. So in the last week, we're like, oh my God, we got to get things on the town meeting. And we decided to put on an impact study. So we got 10 signatures. It's that easy to put it on the town warrant so that we can vote to make sure that our town does an impact study so that when the governor or whomever decides that we can't have a grant, we can say, this impact study states that we have an unfunded mandate and we're able to stick up for ourselves against MBTA housing and the tyranny push down of it. There were a few other subjects that we did put on, but I don't think I have enough time to go
Yeah,
over
we're going to
them
run
all.
out of time in about a minute, but that's important. Impact study, that's the whole basis for the determination that MBTA zoning is an unfunded mandate. Because they admit just on the surface without even doing a full study.
It's pretty obvious it's unfunded.
It's obvious because it was going to add to the schools, traffic, demands on services,
it goes
water,
in-
sewer, et cetera.
Sorry to interrupt you, but
Not
it
at
goes
all.
entirely after.
I talk too much.
No, subdivision control.
Right,
It goes after everything that we put it in for.
right.
And that was detrimental to our schools and our lives then. So why are we going to repeat history for multi-billion-dollar corporations who don't live in our towns?
It's already built into subdivision control.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, yeah, just common sense. That's the whole thing about MBTA zoning, it just overrides everything that we've been building, you know? Anyway, that's it, we're done.
When's
Thank
your
you,
town
Amy Troup, for being here. I hope she comes back again real soon. We need to hear more about what's going on in Halifax and other towns, all right? But for now, I'm Joe Pasevich. Have a really nice spring weekend, okay?